Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. It's Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, and it's episode 326, and we're going to talk about what might be possibly Trump's 5D chess. Okay, so it's the State of the Union is being presented as I'm recording this. I think I'll probably watch it tomorrow, sped up. And when I watch a recording, I can speed up the playback so I don't have to spend as much time watching the actual thing in order to hear what he has to say. Plus, I fell asleep, came home, I was really tired. I fell asleep and I just woke up a little bit a few minutes ago. And so I'm just going to record this episode. I did have time before I fell asleep. I did have time to listen to a couple of podcast episodes of various people, and one I listened to is Ron Paul, and he's and I think his the title of his video, "What's on your bingo card tonight?" Like what he might say, and apparently one of the things that he was hoping that might be on there, or what Daniel McAdams said might be on there, is that he might announce that the United States is leaving NATO, which would be awesome because then it would force Europe to have to change entirely their whole mental attitude towards Russia, the world, themselves. It would be pretty ground shaking, almost like maybe even up there with the fall of the Soviet Union, right? Considering that NATO is the source of a lot of global problems today, that would be something. I think I'll find out tomorrow. So, 5D chess. So it's funny because my wife and I were talking about, okay, what is he really up to? And we're trying to, suss it out, and we just couldn't, it just doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. And so I said 4D chess, and she said 5D chess. And I was scrolling around and I saw other people using the expression 5D chess. Now, it's not literal. Okay, let's not do that. I've played 3D chess and it's pretty confusing and difficult. I'm not even that good at chess, and 3D chess was just really weird. Okay, so the idea to convey is that it looks like things are. Uh, you know, that Trump is about to ruin something. He's about to just do something totally crazy, unacceptable. Uh, you know, it's illegal, unconstitutional, whatever. And you, people get really angry, and obviously many people are getting angry over different things. But when it comes to foreign policy, for example, it seems like, whoa, that turned out a lot better than I thought it would. And a lot of these confusing things that really made me upset before, now they're irrelevant. To flesh out exactly what I mean. So Trump and Zelensky, that meeting at the White House, a lot of people are saying that it had to have been planned. Now, remember that prior to that meeting, there were stories coming out, reports saying that weapons would continue to be sent to Ukraine, weapons and money, which made me like, what? I thought he wanted to end the war. How is he going to end the war by sending weapons and money? And he knows that half of it's going to disappear too, and he's got this Doge thing going on. So, what is really going on? Uh, and I'm wondering is if he had to let certain stories run, he had to because he didn't have a reason not to, right? So he had to show everyone in America what Zelensky really was, so that when he cuts Ukraine off, a lot of the majority of Americans will say, well, of course. Now, there are a lot of Americans who already know that Zelensky's a grifter, he's a former comedian. What they might not know is that he originally had run and was elected on a platform of peace, but now because of the Azov uh, battalion associated people, in other words, the neo-Nazis in Ukraine, pretty much told him that they would kill him if, imagine, they would kill him if he ended the war. And so he's like, okay, I'll go on with the war. He's getting pushed by the neo-Nazis, by the European Union, by, the deep staters here in the United States, the military-industrial complex. And so that's basically what he has to do. And so he's just the puppet of all of those people. And so Trump is not just simply going against Zelensky, he's going against all of those actors, all those entities all at once. And so he had to reveal really what was going on before he was able to actually put the hammer down, which apparently, the announcement came out today that funding to Ukraine would stop, right? Until Zelensky, uh, you know, was going to talk about peace. But unless that happened, nothing else is going, no more money. And so I already heard too that Zelensky has quickly changed his mind after saying that peace is far, far away. All of a sudden, he's like, "No, let's make a deal," right? So first, I'll admit I don't listen. Oh, it's obvious. I don't listen to everything that Trump says. I don't even listen to all of his speeches in their entirety. But from what I have heard, especially the legacy media, the corporate media, they're going to highlight negative things. And so it's easy to know what some of the things that could be construed and interpreted negatively, it's easy to figure that out because they're like blasting it. And I also know that, he wants to end war. I know he knows how destructive war is. He wants the killing to stop. But it seems to me that he can't just do it. Like certain things he can do, but other things he just simply cannot do it. As I just said, he had to reveal to most of the people in America who still believes that Zelensky is a hero. He had to show the American people that he is not the hero that they think he is, and that he's basically a cokehead. And so now let's turn our attention to Israel. What if Israel is the same situation? What if, what Trump is actually fighting against when it comes to issues in Gaza is much bigger than the Ukraine, right? And so how is he going to, bring about peace when there are so many powerful people who are pushing for war? And so what does he do? He uploads and shares a video promoting a renovation of a rebuilding of Gaza with a big gold Trump statue in the middle of it, And so the story came out, and I think this came out a while ago, and now it's getting recirculated that Arab nations, particularly Egypt, rejected Trump's proposal and basically said they're going to spend $53 billion to rebuild Gaza. And it's like, whoa, okay, so if they do that, then Trump can't do all of the things that he said he was going to do in Gaza. It also means then that Israel has to rethink whatever it is that they're planning for Gaza. And I heard yesterday that they cut off, or was it this morning, they cut off food and water to Gaza again, which is really upsetting Egypt. And they are massing their troops apparently near Gaza, right? And it's a powder keg, and it seems that Trump is setting something up in some way. It seems if this hypothetical has any kind of legs at all, then maybe Trump is setting up a situation where the United States cannot, you know, continue in this plan that Netanyahu has going on. And it's just very odd, right? It's just something is not right. And so maybe there's something else going on. I mean, think about it, the level of Israeli influence in the Congress in the United States, the amount of money they're throwing around. What if Trump can't go up against that without more on his side, right? To reveal more to particularly the Zionists here in America, Zionist Christians, Zionists, right? Zionist Jews. All of these people who are very powerful and connected. What is it? Like 90% of Congress is funded by the Israeli lobby. So you can't just simply, and Thomas Massey, every time he does something, AIPAC goes after him. The alliance, the American-Israeli alliance goes after him. And it's only because of who Thomas Massey is that they haven't been able to unseat him. But probably most other people in Congress don't have that kind of loyalty from their constituents. And so they have to do whatever it is that Israel wants them to do. And so knowing all of that, knowing the strength of the Zionists, and who knows, maybe the Zionists, they're the recipients of all this money that was supposed to go to Ukraine, right? Everyone is talking about money laundering. What if it's the Israeli lobby that's receiving a lot of this money? And so our tax dollars is being laundered so that we promote Zionism here in the United States. And if he knows that, if Trump knows this, then you can't just simply announce that you're going to do something, right? And, some people have even floated the idea that JFK, his assassination was because of some kind of connection with Israel, right? For some, I don't know, I remember hearing something about that. And if that's the case, then you can't just simply hang up a flag and say, hey, we're just not going to do this with Israel any longer. It just doesn't happen. But at the same time, the logic doesn't work, right? So on the one hand, he's wants to stop wars. He says in Ukraine, but then does it make sense that he's promoting war in Israel? That doesn't make any sense. He says that he wants to cut military spending in half. He proposes that for Russia and China at the same time, but then he's going to promote war in the Middle East. How do you do that? Like right now, with the way things are, and Doge seems to be getting bogged down. How do you improve the military so that you can fight a war in the Middle East with all the corruption in the military now? How do you do that? And then on top of that, if you cut defense spending, how do you maintain a war? And also, Trump is trying to normalize relations with Russia, but Iran is really close to Russia. I mean, they're sharing technology and weapons, which means that, how does U.S. support Israel when Israel wants to attack Iran, but Iran is close to Russia? And Trump is trying to normalize relations with Russia. That doesn't really seem to add up. That is to say, the math just doesn't add up unless this is all the smokescreen. So I started noticing that, and I think I mentioned this before a couple episodes ago, when Trump says something and people just get so angry, even people who voted for him. I'm beginning to think that he knows that. He knows that people are extremely reactionary. They get so upset and the blood just rushes to their eyes and they see nothing else. That's what he wants, right? It's not the end game. That's not actually what he wants to do. And yes, I know I could be completely wrong that maybe some of the things that make people really, really angry, those are the things that he wants to accomplish. But at this point, it's anyone's guess. I confess have never studied Trump. I've never read any of his books. I don't know all of the things that he wants to do, but it seems that he just doesn't do things without some other plan going on. So there are certain things that he'll do, like gender in women's sports, transgender athletes competing in women's sports, right? Like there's that guy, Camden Schreiner, who goes by the name Sadie or Sadie. And he competes in track and field, and he's like breaking records left and right. But there was a USA track and field open masters competition over the weekend in New York in Island, and he raced alone because everyone else, all the women just said, no, we're not going to run. He's not a woman, right? Now that stuff is pretty easy, right? Because most people are pretty much outraged by all of this trans stuff. I mean, if you want to do it, fine, right? But this whole thing about coercing people, grooming people, taking kids away from their parents, uh, in secret, not letting parents know really what's going on. So only a small number of people really seem to want it and like it and enjoy it. And it's actually that number is even way too big for my taste. And so it seems like only a smaller, much smaller percentage. So it's not the majority of the United States, but rather it is a very vocal minority that want DEI and all this other stuff in the schools. And so it's low-hanging fruit, right? He can do that, and he knows that most of the public is on his side. But something that's more complicated, you need to have a plan, uh, to be able to get himself and all the people he cares about, America, to get out cleanly. And just to let you know what I mean, off the top of my head, I thought of the movie The Firm, which came out, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. Tom Cruise is in it, right? And it's a movie about this law firm. It turns out that the law firm, well, not to give too much away, but the law firm is dirty. And so Tom Cruise needs to get his brother out safe. He needs to get his wife out safe. He needs to get himself out safe. And so at the same time, he needs to get information to the FBI and not get disbarred, right? So all these things have to happen. So how is he going to do it? And he comes up with a plan. And so he is able to get away scot-free, right? Without a lot of baggage. Pisses off a lot of people, but at the same time, he gets to continue being a lawyer, uh, and have some measure of justice. Okay. It's a really great movie. If you haven't seen it, you really should watch it. And so, what I'm beginning to think is that uh, Trump is using a lot of Sun Tzu, the deception that I talked about in Sun Tzu. He's playing the politics game, the game of statecraft as laid out by Machiavelli. And so, therefore, it's not a good idea to underestimate him. Like, if you only go by his rhetoric, which is very basic, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They are listening to what he says, which seems at times kind of boneheady, right? Kind of like, there's no way this guy is a billionaire. There's no way, right? And or however much money he has, there's no way he's like that wealthy. He's just not that bright. But maybe he is, and he only lets you see a part of himself, right? And so the rest of it, the rest of Donald Trump, he keeps close to the vest, right? I mean, he went to Wharton. He's not broke. He kept his business afloat, and yes, he declared bankruptcy many times, but as we know, bankruptcy for people like Trump is a lot different than bankruptcy for you and me. And so also take into consideration everyone who meets him kind of really likes him. He's got really smart kids, and he's got a lot of the American public talking about making a deal. So I think there's a lot more here. Obviously, I've never met him. I've never studied him. I've only seen him on The Apprentice, and even there, he was frustrating to me. And even now, I hear him speak about certain things and I roll my eyes. But all I'm saying is, if you're up against some really powerful, evil people, you need to have a plan. And it helps if all of your opponents, everyone who is against what you really want to do and achieve, then it helps that they underestimate you. It helps that they think you are a bonehead. It helps you if they never suspect what you are up to because they're too fixated on the words that are coming out of your mouth, the deception, the misdirect that is coming out of your mouth. I wonder, and I just thought I'd make an episode about it just to have it on the record so I can say, yeah, my wife and I, we've been talking about it for a few weeks at least. I think we've been talking like this since before his election. That is it possible that he has something else going on? And so far, it seems that way. I just hope that he has a plan for when the economy goes sideways, so that we don't slip into some kind of totalitarian dictatorship, right? That people kick him out of office and replace him with someone far, far worse than Kamala Harris. But that's it for this episode. Hopefully, I'll be able to listen to the State of the Union or whatever speech that Trump is giving tonight and make an episode on it tomorrow. But otherwise, take care. I'll talk to you guys next time.